I woke up to my 8-year-old screaming, "Mommy, it's burning." 2 minutes later, my husband was staring at his son like he'd never met him. By sunrise, my stepson was gone, and my marriage was hanging by a thread. I was out of bed before my brain caught up. I tore down the hallway thinking smoke alarms. I shoved my daughter Amy's door open and froze. Tyson, my 12-year-old stepson, was standing over her bed with a lighter. Amy was awake, sobbing, pointing at her legs like they belonged to someone else. The smell hit me a second later. Raw, sharp, wrong. Both of her shins were dotted with angry red burns, like he'd been testing spots. And Amy couldn't even kick him away. She'd been paralyzed from the waist down since a drunk driver smashed into us 3 years ago. She couldn't run, she couldn't feel, she could only watch. "Put the lighter down, now," I snapped. Tyson looked at me with this blank little half smile. "Relax, I'm running an experiment." I lunged and yanked the lighter out of his hand. He didn't fight. He just stared, curious, like I'd taken a toy, not stopped a crime. I dropped to my knees next to Amy and pulled her blanket back. More marks, some fresh, some older, faint but obvious in the light. "Mommy," she choked. "Why do my legs look like that?" My throat went tight. "Baby, I'm right here." I turned on Tyson. "How long have you been doing this?" He shrugged. "A few weeks." She never noticed. "A few weeks." While she slept, while she trusted him under the same roof as us. And the timing made my stomach drop even harder. Amy had an experimental surgery scheduled in 6 days, a tiny window to qualify. If it worked, the doctor said she might walk again by her 10th birthday. Amy had a calendar on her wall. Every night she crossed off a day with a purple marker. Last week she grinned at me and said, "Only 10 more sleeps, Mommy." Then she glanced down at her lap and whispered, "Maybe after the surgery, Tyson will want to play with me." That's what my kid believed, that the wheelchair was the reason he hated her. But Tyson had hated her since the day I married his dad, Dan. 2 years of little cruelties and Dan's endless excuses. He's adjusting. He's just curious. He's not a bad kid. I even caught Tyson Googling, "Can paralyzed people feel fire?" And Dan waved it off like it was a science project. I grabbed Tyson's arm. "Do you understand what you've done? Her surgery is in 6 days. He blinked like I was speaking another language. "So?" Then Tyson twisted free and headed for the hallway. "Dad!" he shouted. "She grabbed me. She's hurting me." Footsteps pounded. Dan burst in, ready to go to war for his son until his eyes landed on Amy's legs and her tear-soaked face. "What happened?" Dan demanded. "He's been burning her," I said. "For weeks." Dan stared at Tyson. "Tell me she's lying." Tyson shrugged again. "She's paralyzed. She can't even feel it." Something in Dan's face broke. Then Dan crossed the room in 2 steps. Next, he grabbed Tyson by the shirt and lifted him. Then he slammed him against the wall, hard enough to shake the frames. Again, Tyson squeaked, suddenly remembering how to be scared. Then Dan roared, "You think that makes it okay?" Next, Tyson sobbed. "Her surgery 6 days, she'll lose it." Then Dan let him drop like dead weight. The house went dead quiet except for Amy's crying. Dan stared at her legs like he was seeing every excuse he'd ever made. He didn't look at me when he said it, but his voice was wrecked. "Pack your things, Tyson, now." By morning, Dan had Tyson's bags by the door. He called Tyson's grandmother and told her to come get him. No debate. When she arrived, Tyson tried one last time to play the victim, but Dan didn't budge. He just stood there, jaw tight, and watched her drive away. I took Amy to urgent care the second the sun came up. The nurses cleaned her burns while she stared at the ceiling, quiet, trying to be brave. The doctor warned me about infection and scarring, and I felt my stomach twist all over again. 6 days wasn't just a date on a calendar. It was a door that could slam shut. On the drive home, Amy whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" I gripped the wheel and said, "No, he did." That night, Dan tried to apologize. He said he didn't think it was that bad. Like that sentence didn't make me see red. I told him, "You didn't think it was that bad because you never had to look." And I meant it. Because if I had come home 2 minutes later, Tyson would have gotten his answer.